Hey, what's going on? Um, I haven't made a video since the last one. I kind of like spouted off pretty confidently, like, you don't need this, you don't need that. I was really feeling myself, I think, or pretending to, so I could like get through the realization that I just quit my job of 6 or 7 years. For those of you who don't know, I've been working for my family's business, doing electrical work since pretty much right out of high school. Um, I just want to make this update video because I've eaten a plate of humble pie in these last few weeks. I cannot stretch the truth on that. So to lay it out for you, my childhood, my childhood was great, man. Like, textbook white kid childhood, rich white parents. Like when people say like we did okay, my family did okay. No, like, ever since I can remember, my dad, he's just, the guy's a machine. Um, Work is the only thing on this man's mind. I've tried to grasp. I kind of did a little. I've been doing a case study on my father, basically trying to figure out what makes this man tick. And frankly, I don't know. I think it's just I don't know, fear of the rainy day. Fear of the inevitable rainy day, maybe. But whatever it is, doesn't really matter. That man, turned a small little outfit into a multi-million-dollar corporation. So, needless to say, I didn't go without as a kid. There's no, like, I can't put that blame on my parents. I can't put blame on my parents, because they really did their best with what they thought, was the right move. I'm adopted too, so they kind of took a chance on me in that regard. You never know what a kid is going to have kind of tucked under the covers, subconsciously, mentally, physically, even. So they didn't really know what they were signing up for when they adopted me. From what I understand, my birth mother was an addict, or at least that's the conclusion I came to. The only thing I was really ever told about my birth mother was that she chose to do drugs instead of pay for food, or something along those lines. She chose other things. She chose to spend her money on other things instead of feeding me. So, the government snatched me up. This was in Canada, mind you. I'm Canadian from birth. So as my dad's business grew, the family, we got wealthier. The house got bigger, pool got bigger. But I saw my dad noticeably less, I would say. I started to realize, like, the average, that's probably when I figured it out, was like 6th, 7th, 8th grade. That's when I realized, like, most people's fathers don't travel this much. Maybe that's how I felt. I don't know. That's not to say he never came to my events or whatever. He made a very specific effort to come to my sport, hockey games or whatever, right? Long way of saying, basically, I grew up having it very easy. And I know a lot of people that might watch this might say, like, oh, great, another white kid who had it easy. But I want to kind of, like, go into that for a second, because people throughout my life, I remember having kids over for my birthday party in 4th grade. I'm going to smoke. I'm sorry if that disappoints any of you, but especially my parents if they're watching this. I can remember specific moments when I would have a friend over, have a birthday party, and these guys would roll up to my house in the back of their parents' car, and it would take them 2 minutes to get to the end of to get all the way up our driveway. We had a 2-acre house, or a house on 2 acres, excuse me. Basketball court, an outdoor basketball court, a pool, equipment sheds, a separate attached 3-car garage. The house had a 3-car, six-car garage total. So I brought my, middle to low class friends over to the house to for a birthday party or whatever it might be, and it was like letting them into Disneyland. And I remember the strange feeling of going over to my friend Sean's house and wondering, like, why is this guy's bed? He had a twin. I've been on a queen bed my whole life. I remember looking at my buddy Sean's bed and thinking, why is this guy's bed so small? I didn't even know they sold them that small. And that might make me seem like a prick, but I mean, as a kid, you don't know how the world works. I mean, they talk about the starving children in Africa, but you don't really like grasp it. You don't really understand. You just think like, oh, everybody's doing the same thing as me. We're all just playing video games and going to school and going to you're not thinking deeply about the economic state of the world. So I didn't really understand. I started to understand that I was different. My situation was different from other people's, but the guilt, I suppose, hadn't really stepped in. I felt from a young age uncomfortable seeing homeless people, for sure, And I developed weird opinions, like, I would look at beat up cars on the road and I'd be like, why would you ever drive something like that, So needless to say, I just had this very sheltered helicopter rich white parent experience as a child. And the best thing I've come to find to explain my situation to people is that if you look in nature at like a butterfly, for instance, it's the perfect example. A butterfly starts out as a caterpillar, okay? And through the process, it develops this cocoon around itself. Now, at a certain point, it's got to break out of that cocoon. It's got to use every ounce of power that it has. It needs to struggle for maybe hours or days. I'm not really sure on the specifics, but it needs to struggle for a significant amount of time. If you were to take a box knife and open that cocoon and let that butterfly out early, it will have not developed the muscle structure or the muscle density needed to sustain flight. So by cutting that butterfly's cocoon open and shortcutting the difficulties, you have effectively killed that butterfly. It made it unable to survive in the natural world because it did not have to do anything to develop itself into a form that could handle the reality of its existence. One thing it always pops into my head was that I had self-destructive tendencies. I remember from a very young age having, you don't remember everything. I mean, I forget 99.99% of my life, to be truthful with you. But there are a few times that stand out, and it's got to be for some reason. But I remember I was standing on the hillside next to our extremely long driveway, and I had fucked up somehow. And at that point, maybe I was 12, 13, and I said out loud, because I've talked to myself since I was a kid, I said out loud, I'm gonna fuck up everything I do for the rest of my life. And it, like, for some reason, when I heard that, it was like, yeah, it all made sense. It was like, yeah. And then I looked that up, and I discovered the concept of self-sabotage, which is a pretty deep psychological concept to kind of wrap your head around at a young age. But at that point, I was trying to figure out, why I had C's in class and why I couldn't stay quiet, all that stuff they put on your report card. I was trying to figure out, like, what the fuck is wrong with me, even back then. And then I realized, like, maybe I'm just a fuck up. Maybe, I'm never going to get an A. Maybe I'm never going to succeed. I got on the soccer team, but it's only because our class had so few students that they needed every single player that they could get. And I knew that, And I played volleyball. I was all right at volleyball, even though I was only 5'6" at the time. I was pretty darn good at volleyball. But for some reason, Canadian men's volleyball didn't seem like a promising future. And I guess this is going to be a long video. I'm just kind of ranting. It's 4:30 right now in the morning. I just finished my shift at the gas station. I never had a thing. I never had something stand out to me. Like, I had this kid named Harrison in our class, and by 7th grade, this kid was 6'1", like, super tall. So automatically you look at him and you're like, okay, this guy can play basketball in high school. He can really play whatever sport, because ultimately height comes in handy regardless. Just being bigger in general just is helpful in sports most of the time. So you look at somebody like that, and he got great grades, and he was physically large, and you just saw that he had a future. Whereas you look at myself, or maybe the people I hung around with, ironically, one of which ended up, I think, developing software. He was making video games using the same engine that Crysis used back in 6th or 7th grade on his laptop during class. And I was like, oh, okay, well, it's clear where you're going to go, because he had this ability to learn how to code at a very young age. And then I had a friend named Sean, and he was very talented at skateboarding, very talented. But his mother passed away from cancer. But, regardless, you could just tell that kid was talented. He could solve a Rubik's Cube in under 3 seconds. Like, the guy was just, maybe not under 3 seconds, but he was doing it so fast that by the time he started the timer, you're thinking about stopping, because you don't know, like, he was, So I was just surrounded by people that it seemed like something just clicked for them. Maybe he wasn't going to make a career out of solving a Rubik's Cube, but you could just tell that, like, okay, this guy's got the ability to learn. He's got the ability to do something, figure something out. And that's what that's what I've been waiting for ever since that day, was something to click, something to feel right, something to feel fun. I've heard over and over again, if you find work that you love, you'll never work a day in your life. And that's, I've been holding on to hope that I would find something like that. But I didn't in high school, and I went to community college, and I didn't find it there. And I couldn't sit in a classroom, frankly, so that was the end of that. So I went into electrical work, which was honestly wonderful, because I started my electrical work in California, where guys are so overpaid it is stupid. So I was the owner's son, making money that I didn't know how to spend. Like, I couldn't have spent it all if I tried. and couldn't get fired, couldn't get yelled at. You know, people were calling me sir, and I was like 21. And so that kind of, I think that just added to the fire, man. Like, you know, you grow up rich, you grow up spoiled, you get everything you ever want, you have all the best hockey gear in the change room. Like, nobody's got nicer stuff than you ever, because your parents are just like, you know, they view success through monetary value and through, like, you know, they view success as parents as providing, you know, and part of providing is material things and paying for things. So that's what they did, because that's how they expressed love, partially, you know, and they expressed love in other ways, of course, but that, you know, they had money and they liked to spend it on their children, and, you know, I don't blame them for that. But it ostracized me in a way, maybe from myself and from others. Myself more so because I knew inside I didn't earn any of this. You know, I'm flying business class to Europe, or going on these Disney cruises at an age where I couldn't have a job if I wanted one. So from the beginning, I felt like I didn't deserve anything in my life. I hadn't earned anything. And then now, after flopping my way around high school and college, now I have a job that I didn't earn. And every day I woke up and I looked in the mirror and it was like, fuck, man. And to a lot of you, you'd be like, man, if I could have had my fucking student debt paid for by my parent, I would have killed someone to do that. I would have fucking did this or done that. You're an idiot, you know? Like, I would kill to have the fucking drive that you have. You know? It's for me, it's not as easy as, like, just go out and fucking do it, man. You know, just grind. For whatever it is, brother, my brain don't fucking connect with that. It just doesn't work for me. I don't know. I look around at everybody earning all this money and saving this money to buy the next house, to buy a boat, to buy an RV, and I wonder to myself, why? You know, why do they need that? Why do they need that money? Like, why do they need that stuff? Because my whole life I had all that shit. I went on the vacations and I had the fancy food and I had this and that. And I didn't even have to work for it. And I think that's the key. I think that is the key. I didn't have to work for any of it. So the value of a filet mignon cooked to medium, seared on both sides while I'm floating in the ocean on a cruise, it didn't click to me. There was never any part of me that was like, holy shit, you know? Somebody worked really hard to get me here and to pay for that steak and to get me on the boat, and, like, I never thought about any of that. Back on track. So I'm working this job that I don't feel that I deserve. I start as a first year, I get to fourth year, and then I move from California to Florida, and I'm starting over again. So it was perfect, because the guys in California, they were just starting to figure out that I was kind of a piece of shit. They were just kind of figuring out, like, this kid's a Nepo baby and he doesn't really know any of this stuff, you know? I mean, maybe listen, I can bend conduit and I can pull wire and I can run a project, sure. But did I truly know the electrical theory behind it all? No. Now, does anybody? You know, you could argue yes or no on that, but I just knew that I wasn't living up to my expectation, or not my expectation, but I wasn't living up to my promise, or no, potential, I suppose. I felt that I wasn't living up to my potential, and I felt and still feel that it's because I didn't have any motivation, and the lack of motivation stemmed from never earning anything. Never having earned anything, never doing the work on myself. So now I've converted to a life of minimalism, and I'd love to say that it's out of choice. I'd love to say that I'm like all the other people posting videos about leaving their tech job after 10 years of scrupulously saving money up, and, you know, oh, I sold my $500,000 home, and now I'm gonna go find. I wish that was my scenario, but frankly, I'm living a life of minimalism because I don't have any money. I think if I dug through my pockets, I would have maybe $11. You know, and to go from making $65,000 a year to having no income, well, you know, I got the gas station job now, but to having essentially, you know, minimum wage income, it's a bit of a shock, you know. But inside, for some reason, I feel at home, I guess, you know. If I always felt in some way all I deserved was a gas station job, and now I'm working at a gas station, and here I am. I don't know what this channel is going to be about. I mean, I think I said in the first video, and I agree. There's some things I said that I probably don't agree with now watching it back. Yeah, there's definitely some things I said I don't agree with now, but it was, you know, out of passion and in the moment. But what I remember I did say, and I do agree with, is that I don't really care what happens with this channel, you know. I just want to record it, and if anybody else is going through it where they, you know, they've fucked up real bad, and frankly they don't see a way out, because I don't yet. If anybody's going through the same thing I am, you know, I just want them to know that they're not alone. You know, even if you did fuck up, and even if you can't motivate yourself for some reason, like, just know, man, like, there's others of us out there that we fucked up. But, you know, like I said in the first video, good or bad, I just want to record it. So maybe one day I can look back and say, you know, well, fuck, it didn't work out. Or, you know, maybe I'll have a family one day, and I'll be able to show them the origin story. But if any of you are worried about me or whatever, I've got food, I've got a place to stay, paid rent to my buddy, sleeping on his floor right now, which I tell everybody is fixing my back pain, but it's not. It's making it way worse. Where are we going from here, man? I mean, I got my car up for sale, the project car that I was gonna take to drift meets and you know, get famous with on Instagram. That car is up for sale. So the plan is to take the money and invest it in a van, so I can have somewhere to sleep that's rent-free. And outside of that, right now, I don't have a plan. I've been watching, you know, clips of Gary Vee and Andrew Tate and all these fucking guys that just boil it down and say, you know, it's just this easy. You just do this, you know. And everybody's got their own method and their own course that you can buy. So for right now, I don't have much more of a plan than that. Acquiring a van, working at the gas station. But at least now, from here, I know that, you know, as corny as it is, rock bottom, you know, you can only go up from there. Alright, guys. Almost 25-minute video. Not going to edit it, not going to do nothing. Probably upload this in the morning when I'm back at the apartment. Appreciate you guys watching. Yeah. Talk to you guys in a little bit.